The palace took everything from her. Her title, her identity, her royal name. But one woman inside that very same royal family looked at that decision and said, absolutely not. And the private letter she sent Diana? The palace never wanted this to come out. We all think we know Diana's story. The divorce, the heartbreak, the headlines. But here's what nobody is actually talking about. When that divorce was finalized, Diana didn't just lose a husband. She lost something that cut so much deeper than that. And the one person who stepped up to defend her was the absolute last person anyone would have predicted. Stay with me, because this changes everything you thought you knew about the royal family. The divorce between Diana and Charles is finally official. The whole world is watching. But behind those palace walls, something far more painful had already been decided. Diana, the woman who gave over a decade of her life to the royal family, had her HRH title quietly removed. Her Royal Highness. 3 letters. But for Diana, those 3 letters meant absolutely everything. Paul Burrell, Diana's personal butler, one of the people closest to her in the world, revealed this in his book, A Royal Duty. And what he wrote is genuinely heartbreaking. He said, it was, she felt, part of her royal identity, and she had worked tirelessly as a royal highness for many years. Diana didn't just wear that title like a badge. She built her life around it. Every hospital she walked into, every landmine field she stood in, every hand she held of someone the world had forgotten. She did all of that as Her Royal Highness. And then, one quiet decision, made behind closed palace doors. It was gone. Burrell's words? The princess was devastated. But here's where this story takes a turn nobody saw coming. Because not everyone in that palace stayed quiet. After the divorce, most of the royal family kept their distance. Diana was out. The decision had been made. That's how the palace operates. Cold. Calculated. Move on. But then, completely out of nowhere, Diana received a letter. Not from Charles. Not from the Queen. From Princess Michael of Kent. Now, if you're not familiar with Princess Michael, she's actually considered one of the more controversial figures in the entire royal family. Not known for being warm. Not known for being close to Diana, which makes what she wrote absolutely extraordinary. Paul Burrell shared the contents of that letter, and Princess Michael wrote, and I need you to really hear this. I was horrified to learn in the press that after your title was removed, you would be expected to curtsy in public when meeting me. Read that again. Diana, the most beloved woman in the world, the people's princess, the woman millions adored, was now expected to physically bow to members of the royal family she once stood alongside as an equal. In public. But Princess Michael wasn't finished. She continued, I insist that this would cause me the greatest embarrassment, so please do not even consider it. And then, 5 words that probably meant more to Diana than any royal decree ever could. You will always have my support. Think about what that moment must have felt like. In the loneliest, most humiliating chapter of her life, the one person who showed up for Diana was someone nobody expected. But this story goes even deeper than that. Princess Michael of Kent writing that letter was not a small gesture. This was a woman choosing Diana, in writing, on record, over palace protocol. The royal family runs on hierarchy, on titles, on rank, on who bows to whom. And Princess Michael essentially said, I don't care what the palace decided. I will not participate in humiliating this woman. Now, were Diana and Princess Michael close friends? No, they were never particularly warm with each other, which makes the sincerity of that letter even more striking. Because she had absolutely no obligation to write it. No one asked her to. No PR team told her to. There was no political benefit. She just did it. Because it was the right thing to do. And for Diana, a woman who was suddenly learning very quickly who her real allies were. That letter must have felt like someone throwing her a lifeline. And here's the part that the headlines completely missed at the time. This is what it's really all about. Here's the question nobody ever asks. What does it actually feel like to lose your identity? Not a title on a legal document. Your identity. Diana wasn't grieving 3 letters. HRH. She was grieving the version of herself that she had spent years carefully, painfully building. The woman who walked into rooms and stood for something. Who spoke for the voiceless, for the sick, for the forgotten, as a royal. That platform, that power, that purpose, it was all tied to those letters. And when the palace took the title, they thought they were taking her voice too. But here's what they completely underestimated. Diana didn't need a title to be Diana. The entire world didn't love her because of HRH. They loved her because of exactly who she was without all of that. And one letter, from one unexpected corner of that cold, rigid institution, reminded her of precisely that. Remember what I told you at the very beginning? One woman inside that palace said, absolutely not. That woman was Princess Michael of Kent. And that letter, quietly buried in the pages of a butler's memoir, is one of the most powerful, most overlooked acts of human decency in royal history. Diana lost her title, but she never lost what made her Diana. And sometimes, the most powerful thing another person can do for you is simply refuse to let the world make you small, even when the most powerful institution in Britain says otherwise. Now I want to know what you think. Do you believe the palace was wrong to strip Diana of her HRH title after the divorce? And honestly, were you surprised that it was Princess Michael of Kent who stood up for her when almost no one else did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit you the way it hit me, share it, because most people have absolutely no idea this letter even existed. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. We cover the royal stories that the mainstream media quietly buries. I'll see you in the next one.